Welcome everyone to today's video. I'm Mary Felling. I'm a physical therapist with over 30 years in practice. In the last 25 years, I've specialized in myofascial release. Today's video takes us through two very nice techniques to relieve wrist pain. Let's get started. The first technique I'm going to show you today is for the front of the wrist. The nature of these techniques, though, will also help everything along the front of the forearm over to the side, an area where people can get something called the golfer's elbow. It's very painful. And it will also help through the palm of the hand and into the front of the fingers too. So you're going to sit like I am, tall back, put your hand out to the side just so there's maybe about 5 to 6 inches between your thigh and the end of your hand. And very slowly, so I'm doing the right side, I'm going to turn to the right. So I'm going to turn clockwise until I can't go any further. What that does is helps put a stretch all the way along here. And the second thing I'm going to do is just very gently telescope my hand down into the table. So what I'm doing is putting a little extra elongation or pressure through the heel of my hand. And as I do that, and as you do this, you'll feel that increase in the front of your wrist. In this position now, you're elongating, and it's really important to hold the elongation. These are myofascial release techniques. So what we're working on is the fascial system. And the fascial system, it surrounds, supports, and it infuses everything in our body. It's like a big cobweb that runs from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, side to side and front to back. Well, in this cobweb, when it's injured, it can bind down, tighten, curl under, and put almost 2,000 pounds of force per square inch in whatever's in its way. And when it does, those are pain-sensitive structures like your muscles, your tendons, this whole area called the carpal tunnel area. And when you get that much compression in there, you get pain, swelling, discomfort, and loss of some of the activity, loss of some of your flexibility too. So the main part you need to know about myofascial release techniques is they take 5 minutes. Once you begin the technique, you're going to stay there 5 minutes. And we've already been in here for a minute, because it takes that long to elicit this electrical flow called the piezoelectric effect in the body. And this piezoelectric effect just happens to flow through the fascial system. And when it comes to those areas of knots, those areas of baling wire that's curled under, what we call a myofascial restriction, it helps to rehydrate them, soften them, and allow some elongation. And when you do that, you take the pressure off those pain-sensitive structures like your nerve and blood vessels, specifically in the carpal tunnel area. And so pain lessens. So this is really good for you, obviously, if you have carpal tunnel problems. I'm still maintaining that tractioning, that elongation, that telescoping of my hand, my heel of my hand down into the table. I'm not pushing hard, it's just ounces, that's all you need to do. The key is to maintain that. If you had to get up, if you had started working on yourself and you had to go get a drink of water or something else, and you came back, you'd have to start the clock over. You can't pick up from where you left off. So in this position, you're going to feel it up somewhere through the front of your arm, your fingers, your palm of your hand, and everybody's a little different. So if you aren't quite feeling it, you can tweak the position. You can bend your elbow a little bit. You can turn your hand further with more of a bent elbow, and you might feel like, oh, this really gets that area that's been hurting me. Sometimes people are worried that, how do I know I'm not doing damage? How do I know I'm not hurting myself? Well, it's a good question. And the answer is, as long as you can be in the myofascial release technique or the myofascial release exercise position, and you feel it, but you're not tensing, and you don't feel like you're lost your natural breathing pattern, you're great. But if you're going like this and you're holding your breath, it's probably because of pain. It's probably too much and you need to back off a little bit. So you want to feel it, but you want to stay relaxed in the position. And that means you've really got a good myofascial technique release going on. All right, so like I was saying, this is a technique for the wrist, but because of the nature of fascia, because it's all connected, you're also really helping your hands, the palm of your hand, your fingers, all the way to your fingertips, and everything up the forearm, over onto the side to an area where tendons attach that golfers sometimes get tender, and it's called golfer's elbow. So this is good for golfer's elbow too. All right, let's say you're somebody who also has problems with their fingers. Maybe you have a little curl, maybe you have some tension through the palm of your hand. You can take a small rolled cloth like this and put it underneath your fingers. You'd want to do this at the beginning, so just pretend I already had it there. Do it, put it underneath your fingers while you get into your position, and then once you're in your position, it'll help give a little more stretch right at the end there. 5 minutes is always the minimum time for myofascial release. However, if you're starting to feel things soften, release, change, you might even feel radiating symptoms somewhere else. You might feel something coming across the front of your shoulder into your chest. That's great. It means you're located and you're treating a restriction that has created tension through the fascia into other areas of your body. You can be there 5 minutes minimum, but you can stay longer. You can stay there 10 minutes, 15 minutes if you're feeling like you're getting releases, softening, easing of the pain. You won't injure yourself, you'll just get more and more releases. All right, so we're coming to the end of our 5 minutes. For those of you who want to keep going, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to go into the second technique. Okay, you ready for that second exercise? Here we go. So this second exercise is to get the back of the wrist, and you're going to, again, put your hand by your side. This time, it's the back of the hand is down against the couch or bed or chair, whatever you're sitting, or on the floor. And you've got that 5 inches, maybe more distance between your hip and the back of your hand. And this time, you're going to, still being on the right side, you're going to go counterclockwise, or you're going to try and bring your palm, your fingers to the left. They won't go far. That's just not how our wrist is set up. We don't have a lot of rotation built into the wrist. But once you feel a good stretch, and you're probably going to feel a stretch along here besides the back of your wrist. You can experiment. You can bend your elbow a little. That might help you get a little more pull or stretch. Focus it where you need it. That's what you want to do, is feel in the area that you're getting a pull where your symptoms are, where your pain is. You can lean into it if you want. That'll increase some of the stretch too. So there's an art part of the science and art of doing myofascial release, and that art part is kind of repositioning yourself so you can really focus the stretch into one area. So we're going to go ahead and start the clock here. We're going to do our 5 minutes. Remember, 5 minutes is necessary to elicit that piezoelectric effect, get that electrical flow flowing through your fascial system. And that fascial system, by the way, is all made from one piece of material. And the fascia through here is also going to benefit from this wrist exercise, and the fascia muscle through the back of the hand, this side, is also going to benefit from this wrist exercise. So it's a 3 for 1. And I'm going to get in the position that I know really helps me. I have a little tennis elbow, this part, and all the tendons from the wrist that come up over here. Tennis players, when they start talking about tennis elbow, it's this area that gets really sore. So you get the benefit through the top of your wrist, or excuse me, the top of your forearm, besides getting the benefit through your wrist. And I find that if I have a little bend and I really torque that around and lean in, now I've got the best stretch going on through the front of my hand. I guess this is the back of my hand, the back of the wrist. And again, minimum 5 minutes. That's how long I will go today in this presentation. You're welcome, once this video finishes, to go ahead and continue working for the next 6, 7, 10, 15 minutes, especially if you're feeling like, oh, I'm getting relief. Some of you will be doing this, and a few of you will be feeling strain, or you might feel symptoms through your shoulder, chest, neck. You might feel it up into your jaw. That might surprise you. And the reason for this is because when we work on the fascial system, this is different than a muscle system. Muscles have 2 attachments, top and bottom, and they don't go much further than between 2 bony landmarks. The fascia, because it's made from one piece of material, so like my grandmother, she could knit scarves and sweaters from one skein of material. your fascial system is the same. So if I had, let's say this was a sweater my grandma knitted, and I caught it and snagged it in one area of the sweater, you can see that it puts a tension line up through across to my chest, and the other tension line was coming across over to the other shoulder. It's the same here. When there's been an injury can be overuse, repetitive use. All of those things cause fascia to bind down, curl under, and could put up to 2,000 pounds of force per square inch. Whatever's in its way. Well, if that's along back in your wrist, there's a lot of nerves and blood vessels that pass through that area. So, and they are pain sensitive. So those areas get very painful, tighten down. And over time, especially if you've had something, let's say you've had that there for 5 years, 10 years, over time, fascial tension patterns from a fascial restriction can start moving through the rest of your sweater, through the rest of your fascial system. And that's why some people can have problems in their neck because of problems in their forearm, and vice versa. Some people might have fascial restrictions through their neck and upper shoulders because they're in front of a computer all day that have now created tension patterns down into their arms and wrists and hands. So this is really nice because it's creating release and pain relief for an entire area of the body, not just one, even though you're working to just get that one wrist area taken care of. So as you're lying here, as you're sitting here, remember you're still telescoping down. That's part of what fascial release is, which differs it from regular traditional stretching. A release has to have a telescope plus a stretch. And in this position, you're feeling for what's called a release. You're looking for signs that that fascial system, that myofascial system, is getting a release. Myo means muscle, so it's the muscle and the fascia is getting a release. And those signs are, you feel maybe some softening in the area. You might feel less pain. You might feel an emotion come up or a memory. There's a lot of signs now showing that our history, our past history, our emotions, traumas we've gone through get stored in the fascia. So when there's a release, when we open up and release the fascia, that's why sometimes people will see colors, or they'll say, I haven't thought about falling off my bike when I was 5, probably since I was 5 years old. So don't be worried if that happens. And it's wonderful if you do feel other areas releasing in your body too. It just means you're finally getting some tension taken out because this was the governing problem for something up in your neck. All right, we're coming to the end of our 5 minutes. You can stay right where you are and continue on your journey of 6, 7, 8, however many minutes you want to stay there, as long as you're breathing naturally and as long as you're not tensing, as long as you're relaxed, you're okay, you're not injuring yourself. You're just going to get more and more release in that area. Continue these techniques for the next 2 weeks every day. See the difference they can make, and then after that, maybe a couple times a week, just to maintain that improvement. Thank you for showing up for yourselves. Thank you for coming in, and I will see you on the next video.